Okay, so let me think. For 5 years, what has happened in these 5 years? It was, I think that one of the big chapters opened at the end of 2020. So we all know how chaotic these years were. I lived in England back then, in Wiltshire, and I have been to Edinburgh for a health related thing, and it was the first time I came to Edinburgh, and I fell in love. I mean, I always had an image of Edinburgh in my head, and I always knew that it was going to be one of my favorite cities. It was inevitable. It was meant to be. I mean, I felt called to Scotland for many years before that, and Edinburgh, I suppose, as a symbol of as a embodiment of that, or of that energy in the form of a city, like a city, you know, landscape, but Scotland. So all these things kind of kept falling into place there, and I think that that really started a chain of events that was quite uncanny and not always joyful. There's been a lot that happened that was pretty hard to put it lightly. There's been a lot of trauma. There's been a lot of hurt and disappointment. There's been some really difficult abusive situations, and amongst all that, I kind of kept walking that spiral and kind of getting closer to things that I wanted to create around me. But it was really taking a scenic route, you know. It was really taking a route through the underworld, really, like having to go through this initiatory you know, mud and tar to get where I wanted to be. And that keeps happening. This is not a linear journey. That's life. That's how it works. That's how work works. The great work, the inner work, whatever you'd like to call it. I think it's really that. It's like seasons, and sometimes, of course, you know, when we encounter once more a bloody lesson from the universe, it's like, you know, what the fuck? Like, how many more lessons? How many more lessons? How many? Why? Surely, if you climb for long enough, you eventually reach that summit and you can enjoy the view for a moment, right? Before you come crumbling down into the avalanche and just find yourself at the bottom again. But just enjoy the view for a moment. Where is that? Sometimes it feels a little bit like a piss take, and like you know, the endless character development. You know, where's the plot? Like, where's the? I mean, I guess that is the plot. But where's the happy ending? Where's the? Yeah, it gets absurd sometimes. So in that time, I have also become a therapist, which was inevitable. That's what one of the things that I always wanted to do, that I always was meant to do. It was just not. I don't remember a time when that wasn't a thing, and it's funny because I always used to say that. Did I used to say that? I don't know, but I have a feeling that there was a time when I kind of doubted whether I had one thing, whether I had my thing. It was always like a million things. And all these things still are, you know, they're still valid, they're still relevant. I keep going back to the same things. It's not just one thing, it's few things. But whenever I look at these kind of themes or the worlds in which I operate, they're always the same. They've always been the same, and they have been very early present in my childhood, and you know, even as a little girl, I would say certain things or have certain images in my head to you know, what I wanted to do. And becoming a therapist was really one of those things. And I'll be very happy to, you know, talk more in depth about that journey and about this whole world of becoming a therapist, and what it means and how it happens, and all sorts of different themes involved with that. It's a whole other story of whether I'd like to put this content here or kind of make a special space for that. It's something I always hesitated with, and part of this whole dilemma and the journey is trying to reconcile these different aspects of my creativity and my offerings, and wondering, you know, back in the days we used to say or hear a lot around kind of being specific, like you have to have your thing, you have to have, and this bloody thing held me back for so long because I was always interested in so many things, and I haven't seen them especially as so different. It felt like they were really informing each other and enriching each other, and I still lean towards that with a bit of a caveat, a bit of a different approach around clients that I would see that might not necessarily want to, you know, be interested in my spooky side and my in my interest in tarot, although I do offer that as a part of therapy, but as a like an additional offering if someone is interested. But this is not like, you know, there are people who don't want to, might not care about my art or my writing, or they just want to be seen and heard and you know, received in that context. And that has, you know, this cleanness of that, this very boundaried relationship has really its benefits. But on the other hand, I know that I might appeal to people who, you know, come a bit from a similar world at me, where I when I was looking for a therapist, I was looking in this kind of circles. So you know, there's a lot to be said about that, and I find it quite interesting. So yeah, there's like a sort of business aspect of it, a branding aspect, and then there is also a kind of practical or might even be an ethical conversation to have. So that's something that I'm still, it's something I'm always refining. It's something I'm always kind of I have in mind while creating content, or while you know, working on my business and things like that. However, I feel like it's really hard not to see an overlap, because for me everything, magic and spirituality and creativity is, they are imagination, you know, all these things are a part, or like not a part, because it's not something separate. It's not separate, that's the thing. It is so inherent to working with self. And I also work with couples, which means that you know, we're talking about relationships. That's the biggest spiritual work you can do in this realm, I think. So so it's really hard to draw a hard line between those. But I think I'm gonna talk about this in depth in next videos. There's always this, like, it's almost like this like self-generating like a I don't know, it's like a snowball. Like every thought, every theme generates like a hydra. There are like 3 more heads growing out of every theme, and I have a very holographic way of thinking. So it's like if you open one subject, there's like a, you know, so many roads you can go from there. you know, this is a neurospicy charm here, kind of letting itself known. And so yes, that happened. Becoming a therapist, quite a journey. Another thing that happened is I have signed a contract for a book. So also a thing in the making, long in the making, different iteration, different visions for that. So many different things had to happen to for this. So that's a big deal for me. Currently, I'm still refining my finished manuscript, and there will be a lot of editing ahead of me. So it's still happening. Yes, I shall say more in due time. I have moved to Scotland, so that finally also came to be something that has been in my I feel like I've been really called into Scotland is very, very dear to me, and it has been for a while. And again, how things had to happen, which wasn't always joyful and wonderful and magical. A lot of shit had to happen for this to come to be. But I'm here, and where I am specifically is also deeply ingrained into my personal story, and in a way, like it's like a personal myth almost. It's like this different threads of what happens weave together into a story where these different chapters and different places, they have a meaning, you know. It's really wonderful how it happens, and on a good day I think it's beautiful and magical and enchanted. On a bad day it's not always as as sparkly. There's always coffee or tea or some form of beverage around. There always has to be. This is how I survive. This is my creative potion. Let me think what else happened in these 5 years. I mean, of course, I'm just highlighting few landmarks on that journey, but really it's been, I wonder sometimes what would have happened, because it seems like there's been so much. It seems like it's been such a rich time full of these peak moments. And I know, and people who have been alongside me know, that there's been a lot of shit, that there's been a lot of wasted time and wasted days and wasted energy, what I call days of tar. It's just, it's sticky and it's dragging and it's awful, and you are not connected to any of your meaning, mystery, path, spiritual support of your ancestors. None of that. It just sucks, and it sucks so bad that you didn't even know that it could suck so bad. It's just, and it's not always even like intensely bad, because intensely bad it at least brings some color, some contrast. But it's just like, and you can't even place that sometimes. Sometimes there are good reasons for that. Sometimes it just kind of happens, and you don't even know from where. And I wonder what would happen if it wasn't there. If I managed to get out of these states quicker, if they were kind of processed quicker, put into some action, some use, you know. It's all about productivity. it's not really, but you know what I mean, like how different my life would be. Would I be in a different place? And definitely, what would happen if I didn't have to use so many coping mechanisms, that often kind of, you cope, they help you cope, but they leave like an aftermath that sometimes keeps us busy. And that is a way of distracting yourself from the work as well. That aftermath, if I'm gonna talk about it some other time. I think this is a good, interesting topic. That was just supposed to be a quick update. So we've got, we've got creativity, we've got moving, we've got a career. I have started reading tarot, which I think you might have seen somewhere else. I mean, I haven't started reading tarot. I've started offering the readings, which that aspect is new because tarot has been with me for many years, and like a lot of other magical technology, or I don't know what to call it. I'll talk about magic soon because I can't wait. I need to talk about it. So yes, I am building my little life. There are still dreams that I haven't. Oh yes, another thing happened, very important, very important. Gosh, well, I got my driving license, so that is huge. That was huge for me because I was scared. I was so scared. I was not very good at it at the beginning, so that was a huge step for me, and getting a driving license was definitely an adventure and a challenge on its own that almost deserves like its own chapter in the story, because it wasn't without many turbulences on the way. And I think it's one of those, it's very important for me because it really represents one of those things that it was so far beyond my reach. It seemed like this abstract kind of like, how could I ever, like it's some kind of black magic, like how could I ever get to that point? It seemed like everybody can do it. It seemed like I'm obviously not meant for that. It's too scary, it's too overwhelming for my brain when everything happens. And I still, I definitely have so much experience to gain. It's still very early stages, and I don't even have my own car yet, but it all stemmed from a dream about van life, which I had many years ago when the whole movement was still in early stages. And it was a huge dream, and I think of it in with a hint of regret, I suppose. It's a bit of it's one of those things where at the time it seemed so unattainable, but actually if I really have focused back then and remember that dream through my other difficulties and challenges, I probably would have been in a very different place right now. So that's a whole other kind of alchemy that has to happen, relationship with past dreams and goals, and where we are in comparison to where we thought we would be. It's a difficult one sometimes, and it's something that I could say I struggle with a lot, because past is such a present thing for me. Sometimes it can really be almost tangible around me. Like I have very easy access to my past. So yeah, that's a whole other story about how it happens, why it happens, and how not to fall into a trap of overly kind of ruminating over these things. It can be really difficult, but that's where it came from van life, from wanting an adventure and imagining myself and, you know, exploring. And of course, well, first step towards that would be to get a driving license. Don't get me started about insurance costs and stuff like that, but okay, that's it. So as I said, there are still dreams, you know. I think that this kind of dream of adventure, even though I traveled a lot, I moved around a lot, I definitely was, you know, jumping around from one place to another. I think this is the most settled I've ever been, and through this, from that settled space, now I feel like this dream of adventure and exploring, it has changed shape a little bit, or maybe it has changed levels of urgency, depending on what kind of adventure we're talking about, but it's still there, and it's still tugging at me, and it still wants to come to life and to realization. So amongst many other things that are on my plate, I will definitely be thinking about making that happen. So I hope that makes some sense and summarizes a little bit where I've been for the past 5 years. I hope that you'll stay on this adventure here, once more, a revived YouTube adventure. As always, I have no idea which form it's gonna take, given different aspects of that. So let's try to untangle that together. Let's try to discover that shape and form together, and let me know also what works, what doesn't, what you'd like to hear. I might take that on board, or I might just keep doing whatever. So yeah, hope to see you around.